Hey, welcome. Today, we're diving into a story that's been unfolding for more than 2,500 years. And look, this isn't about dusty history books. It's the story of how regular people, farmers, artists, builders, decided they wanted a say in how their world was run.
You've heard that phrase a million times, right? We the people. But what does it actually mean? What does it look like when power isn't held by a king or a queen, but by us? That single powerful question is the engine behind everything we're about to talk about.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're starting way back when the idea was first born. Then we'll see how the Romans tried it out, how it barely survived the Age of Kings, and then how it exploded during the Age of Revolutions. After that, we'll cover the struggle to include more and more people, and finally, what it all means for us today.
So let's rewind the clock, way back, about 2,500 years ago in the ancient city of Athens. In the middle of all the chaos of the ancient world, a group of people had a thought so radical it would literally change the course of human history. Hey, what if we could rule ourselves?
And they gave this wild idea a name, Demokratia. It's so simple when you break it down. It comes from two Greek words, demos, which means the people, and kratos, which means power. Power of the people. In a world run by all-powerful kings and tyrants, this was just mind-blowing. And here's how it worked. The citizens, well, some of them, would gather together in a big public square. They didn't vote for politicians to decide for them. They debated and voted on the actual laws themselves, directly. Imagine that. It was the first time everyday people were given that kind of direct control over their lives. Now, of course, we have to be honest here. It was far from perfect. I mean, that circle of power was tiny. Women? Excluded. Enslaved people? Excluded. Foreigners? You guessed it, excluded. This whole question of who exactly gets to be the people, that's a debate that has followed democracy ever since. But still, the seed was planted. A government's power should come from its citizens.
Okay, let's jump forward a few hundred years. The idea travels from Greece over to Rome. In 509 BCE, the Romans kicked out their king, set up a republic, and decided to try this people power thing for themselves. But they added a major twist.
And this is a huge deal. The Romans invented something new. Representative democracy. See, while the Athenians voted on every single law themselves, the Romans elected officials, senators, consuls, to make those decisions for them. That's the model that most democracies in the world, including the US, are based on today.
But this Roman experiment didn't last forever. It got messy. There was corruption, massive inequality, and a lot of power-hungry generals. Eventually, the whole thing collapsed. The Republic fell, and Rome went right back to being ruled by a single, all-powerful emperor. For a long time, it really looked like the dream of people power was dead and buried. And for the next 1,000 years or so, Europe was dominated by kings and queens. The idea of ordinary people having a say in government, it felt like a fantasy, a distant memory. But that little seed of an idea, it was still there, just waiting for the right moment to grow.
That moment finally came in 1215, in England. A bunch of powerful nobles got completely fed up with their king, King John, and his abuses of power, so they cornered him and forced him to sign a document called the Magna Carta. Now, this wasn't a democratic revolution, not by a long shot, but it was a critical first step.
Because what it established, for the very first time in a major way, was this simple but profound principle. No one is above the law, not even the king. Think about that. It was a tiny crack in the whole idea of absolute rule. But it was a crack that would eventually shatter the old world.
All right, let's fast forward another 500 years. We're in the 1700s, and a powerful new way of thinking called the Enlightenment is sweeping through Europe and across the Atlantic. It took that little spark from the Magna Carta and poured gasoline on it. Philosophers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau started talking about these incredible ideas: liberty, equality, and maybe the most important one of all, the social contract. This is the idea that a government can only exist if the people it governs agree to be ruled. That's not just a theory, that is a call to action. So if you look at this timeline, you can really see the whole journey, right? It wasn't a straight line. It started in Athens, was reinvented in Rome, got a tiny foothold with the Magna Carta, and then finally exploded into the American and French revolutions. This idea was built, lost, and rediscovered over thousands of years. But even after these world-changing revolutions, that promise of we the people, well, it still didn't apply to everybody. Not even close. The new democracies were still incredibly exclusive. So, the next chapter of our story is all about the long, hard fight to make that circle bigger. And it was an absolute struggle.
every single step of the way. Generation after generation had to fight for their place. First, the vote was expanded beyond just the wealthy landowners. Then came the decades-long, hard-fought battle for women's right to vote. Then, the heroic and powerful civil rights movement. Each generation's job was to push that circle just a little bit wider.
And that brings us to today. That little idea from Athens has now spread all over the world. But what does it really mean to be a democracy now? And what's next?
Get this. Today, more than half of the countries on Earth call themselves democracies in one form or another. I mean, from one small city-state to a global movement, that's a pretty incredible journey. But just having the name democracy isn't where the story ends.
And this is probably the most important takeaway of all. Democracy isn't a trophy you win and then just put up on a shelf. It's more like a living thing. It needs attention, it needs care, it needs participation to stay healthy. Every time we vote or stay informed or even just have a respectful debate, we're helping to keep it alive.
So after this whole 2,500 years saga, is the story finally over? Is the experiment complete? The answer is absolutely not. The fight for a better, more fair, more inclusive government is happening right now, every single day, all around the world.
Because in the end, it all comes back to this one simple, world-shaking idea that has toppled empires and empowered millions. The idea that power shouldn't belong to the few or the wealthy or the strong. It belongs to the people. And that's a story we're all still writing, together.